You're listening to the DJ Doran Show, a Doran Omni Media production. Warning, the DJ Doran Show contains adult language, mature content, cerebral debate, and thought-provoking conversation. Listener discretion is advised. Call 312-235-2281 to be a part of the discussion. That's 312-235-2281. And now, Chicago's perspicacious host of your sane radio obsession, DJ Doran.
Thank you so much. I never get bored at getting that applause, even though it is fake. It doesn't matter. It's still.
It's lively.
I know it's lively. Well, listen. Welcome to another edition of the DJ Doran Show. I'm your host, DJ Doran. I'm here with Rachael V, who is my co-host of the moment, and today's show is going to be different. Today's show, we are going to solicit some opinions from the people that are listening, and we'll see. And I think I've told you, Rachael, that I have been struggling of late with what kind of show I want to do.
Yeah.
You know, the last show I did, I said, I want to talk about positivity and the good things in life and this and that and this and that, which is great. And those are all worthy and worthwhile things to, to talk about. But I just am having a hard time sitting on the sidelines regarding politics and current events. Uh-huh. Because it's hard to sit back and just say, I'm not going to respond to that, or I'm not going to offer my opinion, especially, in the position that I'm in. But then again, I struggle with, if I offer an opinion that someone doesn't like, right? Like Ellen just did,
yeah.
Right? And the thing is, on the surface, what she says is so nice and sweet and utopic in scope, But there are a lot of people that hate George W. Bush, for the Iraq War. And it's so funny because I've seen some comments. He's a war criminal and this and that and this and that. But the last time I checked, you have to be tried and convicted before you are technically a criminal by The Hague if it's a war criminal, in Brussels. Uh-huh. So these are people's opinions, right, that he's a war criminal.
Sure.
Now, I don't agree with him on certain things, and there's a lot of facts out there and all sorts of innuendo. But here's the thing. We're all owed and entitled to due process. Yeah. I believe. You may not like somebody and you may think he's guilty of sin or whomever, even criminals, but they're owed their due process to go to the court of law and be judged by their peers. So I think some of the comments are a little bit harsh because, okay, what are you basing that on? Because you think he's a war criminal? I mean, please, I have a list that long, and you can't really see what I'm doing, but it's arm's length of people that hate me and think I'm all sorts of bad things. But do you?
Do I? No.
Oh, I know. I'm sweet as pie. But the point I'm making is I could also say there could be a list that long who hate you.
Sure.
Who could hate you with that soft voice and everything?
I know, right?
Oh, I just threw up in my mouth a little bit, but
you're welcome.
That's me swallowing. No, don't get all sexual. That's gross.
Gross.
But do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like, it's my opinion. Like if someone said, "Oh, that Rachael, she's a war criminal." No, wait. That Rachael, she's a criminal, right? Yeah. And I say, well, what are you basing that on? Has she been arrested? Did she go to trial and get convicted? No. So she's a criminal because you don't like something she did and you think it's criminal and therefore she is a criminal. Do you see what I'm saying?
I do.
So, and it's so funny because like the usual left-wing nut jobs like Joy Behar and some of the others like Ellen, she shouldn't be saying that. He's a war criminal and blah, 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 blah. It's like, who the fuck appointed you judge, jury, and executioner?
Right.
Worry about yourself, and believe me, I guarantee you have a list twice as long of shit that you have to worry about. And I think that's the problem in this world now, a lot of the times, is people take their opinions as a final judgment. You may not like somebody, or you may think something's bad, or you may think something's criminal, or you may think people die. But let me remind those left-wing wackos, and I call them wackos because they're one-sided, right? So they're worried about the Iraqis that died. I am more worried about the 3,000 fucking Americans that died.
Yeah.
Right? So how about we have a little bit of worry about that?
Or traumatized.
How about we just post those pictures of the people jumping out of the World Trade Center that are burned into my memory, right? In executive white shirts and ties, feeling that they have no other option except either I'm going to burn to death or whatever, so they jump out the window from, 100 plus stories or whatever. So I don't like that kind of bullshit. You want to pander and say, oh, I worry about the Iraqis and this and that, and I worry about this and that. I worry about the American people that died. I worry about the Iraqis too, because I don't think it was justifiable to have a war, but at the same time, the whole country was in a panic. We've never been attacked like that before. Cut the guy some fucking slack, I mean, think about it. If somebody, like that girl the other day in Chicago, right? These guys got into her building, and then they knocked on the door, and when she opened it, they kicked the door in and then robbed her and beat her up or whatever, and right?
Sure, I don't know.
Well, that just happened right here in Lincoln Park, I think it was. So it's, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, in a situation like that, you react, you defend yourself. Yeah. Now, she couldn't, obviously. They tied her up and duct taped her, but you try and defend yourself or whatever you can do. And then after, it's so much easier to sit back after the police have been here and got everything done, say, oh, I should have done this, or you should have done that, or this or that. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I cut George Bush a little bit of slack. Now, he was never my favorite president. I think he's personally as dumb as a box of rocks. But, on that day, I was proud of him because he stood up there with the firefighters on that rubble and whatever, and I thought to myself, okay, that's what leaders do. They give you the appearance that everything's going to be okay. Yeah. That's it. Now, how he handled it after the fact, that's sketchy. I never liked Dick Cheney. I never liked any of the, whatever, and we went to war with Iraq. Why?
Who the fuck knows? Oil.
Yeah. Or whatever the deal is.
Yeah, whatever it was.
And so yes, he deserves scorn for that. But would I have dinner with him? Fuck yes. I would have dinner with. He's still a historical figure. Yeah. And most likely he's a decent man. He made mistakes. I would like all of you in the audience that have never made a mistake to call. And how many of those are there, do you think?
Dude, fuck if I know.
Well, it's easy. It's an easy number to remember. It's one digit. You know how many? 0. That's how many. Unless Jesus calls me. And if Jesus calls me, I have bigger issues to worry about. That means I'm going home or wherever I'm going. I hope it's up. I want to go up. But do you see my point? Is there is no room for anything. There is no civility. It's like you either hate someone or you hate them.
And this is why talking about politics is usually a little bit trying.
It's trying, but the thing is, this is why I'm kind of struggling, because part of me is like, I don't want to deal with the Joy Behars and others of the world that have that narrow-minded view that, oh, he's a war criminal and he's we shouldn't even have a conversation with him, or blah 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 blah. My view is I would have a conversation with Hitler if I thought I could reach him, or if I could make a difference, or even if I could make a difference, I would try, right? But you're not gonna make a difference if you don't have any conversation, right? Isn't that?
That's fair.
That's true. So so my thought is like, okay. The president is a leader, but he's not the only person that makes this stuff happen. Yep. Do you know what I mean? It takes a village, to use Hillary Clinton's term. You have lots of advisors, military advisors, Secretary of State, the Secretary of Defense, and all of these people making recommendations, but you're the face of the decision. So is it fair to call him a war criminal?
Personally, I mean, I think yes. You're the leader. I mean, you're gonna take shit.
I know. As someone who's been in business and as the president of NEMA, which is a collection of publishers, you're right.
Yeah, every problem they have with that or with, Bush's presidency or whatever happens in the country at that time, they're going to blame him. Yes. He's the face of it. You know what I mean? That's the job. That's kind of what you sign up for.
Yes. And no. I don't like that part.
It sucks, but that's the truth. If anybody has a problem with your organization and you're the head of it, they're gonna look to you and be mad at you. Yeah.
So I do get that and what have you, but I do understand her view is a little bit myopic in the fact that she has to. She should have had some sensitivity, but in her world, because she's to use the term which I hate and loathe and despise, privileged. White woman with lots and lots and lots and lots of money. She lives in a bubble. She can afford to do that. Yeah. But she can afford to say that. So, and besides, I think
who is she? I mean, she's just she's an entertainer.
She was watching a fucking baseball game.
No, she was invited to.
Yeah, she was invited. Big deal. Yeah. It's like they're not there talking policy or she's not making policy. I'm there watching I think it was baseball. It could have been football.
They were watching a Cowboys game, I think.
Yeah, or whatever. And so, I'm not a sports expert. So
I know.
I think some of them are cute, but I'll watch for that. But that's what I'm saying. It's like, why turn it into a political thing? She had, and somebody said, well, George W. Bush wanted to destroy LGBTQ rights. I'm pretty sure there's enough blame to go around, for everyone.
True.
So I don't know. I just think that if we are held to the standard that we're either perfect or disposable, I'm pretty sure all of us will be pretty lonely. Just my 2 cents on it. But this is the common sense kind of discussion I want to have about these subjects is, okay, you can be all crazy and I don't see myself hanging out with George Bush and whatever. That's fine. I'm never going to have that opportunity, clearly. But I'm just saying is people can comment on this like somehow make it a bad thing. So if we disagree with someone politically or ideologically or anything else, then what? We don't ever talk to them again? What, we put them in a bubble and let them float around?
In this case, I guess so.
I just think that's so silly.
Yeah, I agree.
It's silly and it's whatever. And how can a community that really is supposed to be so accepting and forgiving, why are we so rigid? Why are we so rigid about that? So my struggle is, what kind of show do we do? Do we do a show where we're just talking about light fluff and the things that interest me, because there are a lot of things that interest me, or do I comment about the state of affairs in politics and current events, but from a different perspective, because you would not expect a gay guy or somebody being part of the LGBT community legitimately, even though someone called me queerish one time. I don't even know what that means.
What does that mean?
I have no idea. It was it was a transgender person who got mad at me.
A transgender person, remember that part of it. Not a transgender, it's a transgender person.
So did I do it right?
You did it right, yeah. You were just like paused, and I'm like, you say person there.
Yes. And who was mad at me because she didn't agree with what I was saying. Because I was just asking questions. Like they were talking about something, and I asked a question, and she took offense at that. And then after, she didn't say anything during the show. She was totally polite to me during the show, and she was in my home and everything. But afterwards, she posted something on her social media that was completely attacking, and she said that I was. This was awesome. I'll try and remember it. I was a rich, old, cis, white, queerish male.
Okay.
That's a lot.
Yeah. I mean, most of those are technically true. But queerish, I don't know what the fuck.
I don't know where she got the rich from, because I'm in publishing. So there is no rich there.
Yeah, I don't know. I meant older, white, cis, yeah.
Older? Really?
Yeah.
Get out.
You're older than me.
My underwear is older than you, for Christ's sake.
Exactly. Perspective.
Yeah. So, but anyway, so she said that, and I was like, none of that bothered me, but the queerish part, I was like, does that mean I'm not really part of the club?
I don't know. I think that's just bullshit.
Yeah. Well, I think she just probably thought that I was bisexual, maybe, or.
But even then, though, that's not an ish. That's the B part of the community. That doesn't change anything.
Yeah. So, anyway, so that was that, and it just, I don't know. So my whole thing is, maybe my role is to talk about good things and the good things people do, but at the same time also talk about the issues. You know, this whole thing that's going on right now with impeachment and these investigations, and the people creating investigations are suspect, and the people making the complaints are suspect, and the president is an idiot, and, you know, and saying stupid shit. I think somebody needs to come out and just like say, wait a minute, whoa. Here are the facts. Here's the truth. This is what's really happening. You know, like I was telling someone the other day that talking about impeachment. They're like, oh, they want to call impeachment and blah, 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 blah. And I said, first of all, you're wrong. This is an impeachment inquiry. And do you know why it's an inquiry? Do you?
Me?
Yep.
Oh, no. I stopped following that shit a while ago.
Yeah. Well, the reason why it's an inquiry, because if it's an inquiry, they don't have to give the Republicans the right to subpoena witnesses. So it's all one-sided. So it's only an inquiry. So you can't impeach somebody on an inquiry. You got to formally impeach someone. Yeah. So, but see, most people don't know that stuff. And so they're like, oh, that's why it's, I kind of want to comment on things in a slow and steady way that is not ideological or sensational or salacious,
but factual,
but educational.
Educational is better.
And factual, but educational. And I was thinking to myself, well, can you do that, DJ? Can you? I mean, can I be calm and discuss it?
Very, very good question.
So that's the big challenge for me, is whether or not that I can do that. Now, there is passion involved, because to me it's just dumb shit. It's like you cannot be that stupid, or you cannot be that naive, or you cannot be that gullible. Yeah. But the truth of the matter is, people are. Yeah. People are, and so as a consequence of that, what happens, it becomes less and less about the truth, and more a battle between the manipulation of who believes who. Yeah. So Trump and the Republicans want you to believe this. Pelosi, Schiff, and the Democrats want you to believe that. Yeah. They don't really care about the facts. They just care that you emotionally lean in their favor. Yeah. So they'll say something like, Rachael. Rachael. Yeah. Trump hates transgender people. Right? Yeah. He'll say that. And you go, what? I hate him. How dare he take away my rights? Oh my God, I can't believe it. Yada, yada, yada. Exactly, right? Yeah. And you did not even bother to determine whether or not what they said was true or not, did you? Now, I'm just using this as an example, right? Yeah. You didn't. So you didn't. But now you're like, I'm going to protest and I'm going to do that. And by the way, I'm sending $10 to the LGBT task force or whatever, right? That's what they do. And then the Trump administration says this and that, or the Republicans say this and that. And so the base says, oh, they want to take away my guns. They want to do this. They want to do that. Ah! Do they even bother to check to see whether the Democrats want to really take their guns? No, they don't. That's my point, right? So that's my point. So how do you cut through that clutter? So my thought is, if I can editorialize, see, I'm not a reporter. I'm not going to report the news. But if I can editorialize my opinion and understanding of the facts as I see them, then maybe through that somebody will find some kernel of knowledge that will help them make better decisions or form better opinions. Now, I can say a fact, like I can say this computer is an Apple Macintosh, right? That's a fact. Me calling it a Windows Surface does not change the fact that it is an Apple MacBook Pro.
True.
Right? So I can have an opinion. I have an Apple MacBook Pro, but it sucks, and it's this, and it's that, and I punch it, and this and that, which is really true. Which is really true, ladies and gentlemen. Then that doesn't change that fact, right? At all. That doesn't change the fact that it's an Apple MacBook Pro, but I'm giving you my opinion about that MacBook Pro. But it is still a MacBook Pro, whether I hate it or love it.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying? So Trump doing X as a fact does not change my opinion about what he did at all. It's just my opinion. So then the question remains, can I take the facts by researching a topic, right? Add my opinion on top of that and help you have a better understanding of the truth. That sounds really smart. So that's kind of really what I want to do is I want to engage in a civil debate about the facts so that we can form our own opinion about those facts. Now, my opinion could be different. Like, my opinion is I hate Apple, right? As a matter of fact, one of my passwords is fuck you, Apple, ... and a few other things, right? I know it sounds horrible, but it's one of the days where you get the spinning wheel of death, and I was like, anyway. So that's my opinion of Apple. But you love Apple, and Apple is your favorite thing. So we have a difference of opinion, but it's the same Apple.
Exactly.
That is truly brilliant. But seriously, these flashes of brilliance just come to me. But that's truly the issue, is you can have one fact and two different opinions. People think that when you have a fact, there are no opinions. But that's not it. The fact is, I have an Apple MacBook Pro. My opinion is I hate it. Your opinion is you love it. Does that make it less of a MacBook Pro?
No.
But it does open up the floodgates of questions like, Rachel, why do you like the MacBook Pro?
Exactly.
And then Rachel would say to DJ, the host of this show, who's ruggedly good-looking and with boyish charm, too, by the way, DJ, why do you hate the MacBook Pro? And that is the conversation.
Exactly.
And I guess I would even say further, a debate, because you would try to convince me to change my opinion of hating a MacBook Pro to loving a MacBook Pro. And I would also try and change your opinion from your love is misplaced.
And
that's the conversation.
That's the conversation.
And if you take that exercise and you just apply it across the board, the fact is this. My opinion on that is that. Yeah. Your opinion is that. We don't have to agree, but doesn't change. But we can agree that this is a MacBook Pro. That's our commonality. That's our baseline. Is that's it. So that appeals to me because number one, I could teach someone, and number two, I could be taught.
Yeah.
Now, the key ingredient there, and I think the thing that's missing in today's politics, is no one wants to teach and no one wants to be taught. They don't want to listen. They don't want to learn and evolve their opinion. They state that they have an opinion, and then that's it. There's no discussion. So no matter what I say to you, using you as an example, it doesn't matter because you have an opinion, and that opinion is now your fact. And that is indisputable and incorruptible and unchangeable. Right? What I would like, and what I hopefully am, is if you make an argument to me that makes sense, that educates me about a subject that I thought I knew, but now I'm learning new information, I should have the right and I should have the leeway to change my opinion from what it was. Yeah. But see, that's not where it is. So someone says something, and I give you information, let's say, that should change your opinion, but you're so ideologically bound that regardless of what I say, regardless of the information that you learn, you're never going to change. You're never going to be open. And that, I think, is where we are right now, politically. And so what you're seeing is really a fight to the death between two opposing ideologies. And they don't care about the facts, neither Trump or the Democrats. They don't. They don't care about the facts at all. And so what they do is, like when my mom, when we were kids, I'd say, but I have a lot of brothers. And so I'd say, Mom, but Mike did this and did that. And my mom would say, I don't really care what Mike did. We're talking about you. So what we have in politics now is the Republicans say Adam Schiff is a liar and blah, blah, blah. This investigation is a hoax. The Democrats turn around and say, and he points to all these examples, and then the Democrats say, but we can do these examples. And then they go back and say, well, what about Clinton? And then they go back and say, well, what about this? And what about Biden? And back and forth and back and forth. And so there's so much dirt in Washington that there's a never-ending pool of examples of corruption. Yeah. So there is no discussion or anything. It's just like, I'm going to try and continually one-up you on, you're more corrupt than me, and they're going to say, no, you're more corrupt than me, and no, you're more corrupt than me, and that's where we are. So we have this continuing saga, and it is a fight for the emotional soul of the constituents. Yeah. Because they are not educating you by the facts at all. Mm-hmm. They want you to emotionally connect with them. They want you to feel victimized. One party wants you to feel outraged. The other one wants you to feel victimized. The other one wants you to feel entitled. The other one wants you to feel marginalized. The other one wants you to feel empowered. The other one wants you to feel outraged. Yeah. Do you see what I'm saying? And so that's why people are exhausted. Yeah.
And yeah, just all the finger pointing and like, dude, who cares? Who cares about these semantic
bullcrap? And so I think that there's a part of me that wants to have a show that does that, that actually talks about the issues, wants to learn about the issues, wants to have civil, educational, intellectual discussions about the issue, so that, yeah, maybe if I have a position today, it's changed tomorrow because of that discussion. Exactly. Or at the very least, it challenges me to rethink what I used to hold true. Mm-hmm. And that appeals to me. The only problem is, quite frankly, Rachel, the only problem is if we do a show like that, we'll get all the nut jobs that'll call up and hate. Yep. And they'll call up and say
just be angry.
Right, and just be aggressive. Angry. I'm looking at the saying. It says what Joy Behar says. She goes, I don't see myself hanging with Donald Trump or whatever. I always said I didn't want to get to know George Bush because I knew I would like him. That's what Ellen said. I knew I would because he seems like a likable kind of guy. Behar said, and then Behar said, sorry. Joy Behar said, I always said I didn't want to get to know George Bush because I knew I would like him. I knew I would because he seems like a likable kind of guy. But if you lost a child in Iraq, then you don't like him so much. And I don't see myself hanging out with Donald Trump anytime in this lifetime. So it's not only about disagreeing with somebody, which I certainly understand. It's more than that. Behar went on to say, when you think about the position that he took on gay marriage when he was in power and had the power to do something, in 2004, when he was in a position to do something about it, he pushed for a constitutional amendment to make sure that marriage was defined as between a man and a woman. And I think when you're a woman like Ellen, she continued, and you came out and changed the lives of so many people in the LGBTQ community, I can understand why there were people that were put off by seeing her do that. So I do understand that. I understand what she says. You have a president who, actively tried to pursue that. Yeah. I've had a lot of people actively try and hurt me, or because they disagree or what have you. I guess my thought on that is, when you're in office, then if you're the president, when you're in office and you're doing those things, then that's a platform for you to and then you're running on a platform like that, then yes, we have the right to oppose that, and we should oppose that publicly, right? But when you're not in office and you're watching a football game, I don't have to agree with his position of marriage between a man and a woman, but that doesn't mean I can't watch a football game with him. I'll use us as an example. We don't have a lot in common on that part, but I still have you come to my home. Mm-hmm.
Wait, on what part? What are you talking about?
Like, I'm just saying is we don't agree on like every ideological or political thing, sure. Right? We haven't discussed many, but ones we have discussed, we usually don't agree.
We have very different views, but it doesn't matter.
But it doesn't matter. You still come to my home. I still offer you food. We still do the show together. I'm still civil and friendly and what have you. So think about that. According to Behar, because we have such differing views, I really shouldn't hang out with you. And you shouldn't want to hang out with me. You shouldn't want to do this show. Do you see what I mean? To me, that seems kind of counterproductive, because as a result of you and I getting to know each other, it has had an evolving impact on my viewpoint on transgender issues.
Yes.
Inadvertently. It's not like you preaching to me. No. Or vice versa. It's just by seeing it in real life. And I think that's the key is when you desensitize an issue, there's no people involved. It's just 10 dead. You know what I'm saying? But when you see the actual impact of somebody's life on your life, I think that's where things change. Yeah. That's the crux of it. So I don't agree with that. I agree that when he was the president in the office, we should have opposed him, and we did on a lot of things. He's out of office now. If she wants to have, go to a football game with him, then that's fine. Why not use that exposure to educate him? Let me ask you that question. That's an interesting question. You oppose something, so what? We just cut them off and we never try and educate them?
I was going to mention that. I'm like, people in our community should understand that more than anybody is that people, have really weird or bad or extreme ideas about us. So, I mean, what are you going to do? You're just going to ignore them and try to run away or keep away from them, or be like, no, you're awful, go away. Because that's what they say about us. You're awful, go away. So how are you going to change anybody's mind? That's
exactly right. That's my point. That's a great point, too. Is, maybe it's by him hanging out with Ellen and Portia, he's like, oh, that was kind of stupid for me. That was political or this or that or what have you. I don't see what the vitriol is all about, except for the fact that a lot of these actors and actresses, they want to get on this podium and they want everything to be black and white. Like, you cannot talk to them. You cannot have dinner with them. You cannot do this. You cannot do that. It's like, okay, because of their political beliefs? Right. Or because of what they did while they were in politics, when they're representing more than just themselves. You got to remember, they're representing more. They're representing their constituents. They're representing their base. Yeah. They elected them. So, maybe George Bush is indifferent about gay people. He's like, oh, live your life, be happy, that's all I care. But when he was in power, when he was in office, he had
people telling him to...
Yes, he had a base that he had to pander to, like everyone does.
Yeah, exactly.
So give the guy some slack. And I certainly don't think Ellen deserves the vitriol that she's gotten.
Yeah, and to be fair, again, they're just at a football game. They're not doing some kind of, positive LGBTQ commercial together or some shit. Because then at that point, yes, that would probably be deserving. But, I mean, they're just sitting watching a football game.
Right. And the other part I also think about that is I think we lead by example. So if somebody is persecuting us, then we do the right thing. we always do the right thing. You don't say, oh, you threw hot coals on me, so I'm throwing hot coals on you.
Yeah.
Then you both get burned.
Exactly.
So, anyway, so that's what I think about that. So my thought is that as difficult as having a political show might be, it appeals to me, as you and I are talking about this now, that maybe we have a chance through our example and through our both mutual or us and our audience enlightenment about the facts and civil discussion, maybe we do change hearts and minds one at a time.
Yeah, I'm with that.
There are some that are never going to be changed. That this is so stereotypical, but that gun-toting, hunting, fishing, pickup driving redneck, we might not change his heart or mind, but we can. Yeah. And I can. You know why I know that's true? Because I have a friend who is a gun-toting, hunting, pickup driving redneck.
I do too.
In Oregon, and he wrote such a nice email to me, a long time ago, because when he worked for my construction company when he was younger, before his with his current family, he was lost. And he was having difficulty, and I was there, and I was supportive and tried to give him guidance like his older brother and what have you. And for years, I didn't hear from him because I moved away, and he was there. And then one day out of the blue, he wrote me just a beautiful email, and I talking about how much I impacted his life and changed the direction of his life, and we couldn't be farther from lifestyles, farther apart in lifestyles. And to this day, his heart and mind was changed, and I was reminded that nobody is beyond redemption.
Yeah.
Nobody.
I agree.
But some of these politicians want you to believe that they're beyond redemption, they're beyond salvation, they're beyond education, they're beyond anything. And I refuse to believe that. And to me, that's the good part of life. You're talking about we want to do positive things. That's the positive thing, is not losing faith in our ability to want to be better, to learn. Not everybody, how would I say this? Not everybody is born hateful.
Nope.
It's a learned behavior that's been proven time and time again. And if it's been learned, it can be unlearned. And the question is, how do you get them to unlearn it?
Exactly.
Well, first of all, education is key, because fear and hatred, I think, are born out of ignorance. So just like we don't know what's in the closet or under our bed, so we fear it. But once you turn the lights on and you know what's underneath there or in the closet, not so scary. I think that's also a brilliant analogy, by the way.
Right?
I think that could be part of our role, is changing the world one listener at a time, and by talking about the truth. And see, I'm not afraid to be challenged. So if someone says, "Oh my God, DJ, you're so wrong," and blah 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 blah, like somehow that's a bad thing. It's like, okay, if I'm wrong, enlighten me. Now, if you're just going to call to say that I'm a dick or you hate me or whatever, then I'm not going to give you any airtime. But if you call up and you say, "DJ, you're wrong on this issue, and this is why."
Exactly.
And you can support your argument, right? Not just your opinion, but support your argument with the fact. Then I think I consider myself intellectually mature enough to say, okay, well, let's explore that. Let's talk about it. Let's figure it out. Let's see if it's what's what. And I think that where my show could be sort of a unique voice is, I can guarantee you there are no gay podcasters that'll be talking about common sense like I will be. No, I mean it. I just don't think there are, because they're all ideologues. Well, I should say news people, especially. They're all ideologues. I recently went to a conference, and it was just, some of the speakers there were so politically slanted, and I was sitting there thinking, I guarantee you don't know anything about the topic to which you're speaking. But you're saying those things because it incites the crowd, right? And because it's an emotional delivery.
Probably.
I wanted to go up to one of them. I told you about this one, the one where they had the transgender person.
Yeah.
And they just stood her up and paraded around.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, you really are diverse. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, but you should have seen the crowd lap it up. Like, yay, they're diverse. Look, they love our community and what have you.
Yeah.
It was actually sickening to me.
I probably would have been to me too.
And I didn't say anything because I thought, you know what, this is not the right forum, number one.
Yeah. And
I'm not going to get through to them in a 10-minute conversation. But it did make me think how ignorant a lot of people are, but because it feels good and it feels right, they embrace it as the truth.
I know what you mean.
So I wouldn't mind making a show like that, would you?
I support that.
Because the one thing that I like about what you and I are doing, the one thing I like is we don't have to agree, but we don't hate each other.
Exactly.
At least today.
Not yet.
Not yet. That's subject to change. And I got to tell you, well, before we do anything, let me take a break. We're going to take a break. This portion of the DJ Doran Show was brought to you by our friends at Joe Eats World. And Joe travels around the world eating and drinking his way through life. So don't go anywhere. You're listening to the DJ Doran Show. We'll be right back. This episode of the DJ Doran Show is brought to you by our friends at Joe Eats World, featuring Chef Joe Morales as he eats and drinks his way through life, sharing recipes, dining experiences, and cooking tips. Be sure to follow him at joeeatsworld.com and on his Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. All right, well, we're back, and we've been talking about what it is we want our show to be. What is our life? Because right now they have our show classified as comedy.
Really?
Yeah, comedy and culture.
We're under. Do we make people laugh?
I don't know. We do. The other show we did about road rage was funny.
I guess so. Yeah, the the horror movie one was.
That was funny too.
It was pretty funny. Yeah, I wouldn't consider us comedians, though.
No, I wouldn't either. I want to be a little bit more serious than that.
Same.
But at the same time, one thing that does appeal to me is what if we were a hard-hitting show. What if we were just news, current events, and culture?
I'm down with that.
Because then we could talk about things in the news. We could talk about things that are current events.
Sure.
That are not necessarily newsy. Mm-hmm. And then we could talk about culture, which is just anything.
Sure. Yeah.
I think I like that idea. And we could still be everyone's sane radio obsession because we would talk about things in a sane way.
Yes.
I like that idea. So I know that I've evolved this show 5 times since we started, and so we're just
trying to find our identity.
Right. I love that idea too. It's like we didn't know how to identify, but now we're starting to hone in on it.
Exactly.
I love that idea.
We're narrowing it down.
I love that idea, but the producer who helps with the social media and stuff with the show, they are probably doing this right now.
Most likely.
That's my favorite. I say it over and over again. This is what happened when I was driving today, and I pulled up behind this lady who was going slow in the left lane, so I did this.
So you drove past the person screaming that out the window. It wasn't even worse. It was just,
Exactly. But the thing is that I like that idea. We're finding our identity. So the DJ Doran Show is your sane radio obsession where we talk about news, current events, and culture. I like that.
Yeah.
Because that gives us a lot of flexibility to talk about whatever. Mostly our show will be about news, politics, current events. I wrap all that together.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I want to call it news. What would we call it? Current events, politics. We'll come up with a contraction of news, current events, and politics.
Okay.
And then culture.
Yeah.
So those will be our four areas of focus. And it'll be interesting because as right now we're just talking generic, so you and I are in general agreement.
Yeah.
But there will be times where we have a show and you and I will be in stark disagreement.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure once election time comes around,
you said that word.
Everybody panic.
Yeah, but I do think that where we have the opportunity to make a difference is everyone will expect a gay host and a transgender person as the co-host to believe and accept a certain way of thinking. Mm-hmm. And so on some things we will agree, right?
I feel like we do.
And I mean our audience will agree with our audience, but on some things we won't. Mm-hmm. That'll be the challenge. So our own community will probably balk and resist some of the things we're saying because they are ideologues. But and some of the other side I don't like extremism in any form. I don't. Whether it's left or right, I don't like extreme right religious craziness, and I don't like extreme left permissiveness.
Yeah.
And I want to be in the middle. Mm-hmm. I want to be more moderate, and the sliver of what was once a larger swath of moderation is diminishing all the time. Uh-huh. And that's kind of where I want to be. Is like, okay, I'm completely socially liberal, totally socially liberal. I mean, I think that, less government. I don't want government intrusion. I want them to be out of the bedroom. You do you. Exactly. As long as you're not hurting anyone, you do you. I want reasonable immigration policy. I want reasonable, further education opportunities. I want protection from big companies that can abuse the less. I don't want to say the less. The workers, right?
Sure.
So I've never been a big union fan, but I do think a hybrid of a union should always be there, right? Just like we do with NEMA, where I love this saying, and I came up with this myself, is alone we are a squeak, together we are a roar.
Okay.
So same thing, that's what a union does, is like, okay, I'm a worker, so I can be abused by these, by upper management, but 100 workers has a bigger voice and can protect. I've always been supportive of that. Now, when big unions became corrupt and, got really fat and lazy and whatever, not a big fan of that. Uh-huh. But we have big companies that make big money on the backs of workers, and very little trickles down to us.
Oh, no
and
shit.
And I consider myself lower middle class. I'm live comfortably, but if I stopped working, I'd be in serious shit. Just like about anybody else, in short order. So, that I like that part. But on the same time, on the right, I like low taxes, less government intrusion, stay away from my Second Amendment rights. But at the same time, amend the Second Amendment. There's no reason for us to have bump stocks and automatic weaponry. No reason. Right? So common sense. Isn't that just common sense? Okay, go out and shoot your guns and go hunting, but you don't need an AR-15 automatic, right? So an AR-15 semi-automatic, just so you know, is not considered a military-grade weapon. The Democrats want you to believe it is, but it's not, because you have to keep pulling the trigger.
That's what semi-automatic means?
Yeah. But an automatic is you just hold the trigger down and spray bullets. Nobody should have that.
No.
Number one. And I think that... I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're good.
I think that background checks and some loopholes that could be closed, like you can buy a gun at a gun show and get a gun, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Those things need to be addressed. That's common sense. That's not taking away your rights. That's just making it right.
Yep.
Immigration is also a thing for me. It's like, have sensible immigration. Make it reasonably sensible for people to emigrate if they want to come here. You know, but having an open border where people can come across illegally, not in favor of it at all. If they're seeking asylum for persecution, okay, that's a case-by-case basis. You know, I suppose you could say everyone is seeking asylum because they all want a better life. But, you know, try going. Have you been to Europe?
No.
No, if you go to Europe, you can't just go into every other country. You know, you have to go through borders and you have to go through customs. You know, why is it such an egregious thing to require people to do that here? And why do we give them driver's licenses and benefits when they're not even citizens of the country?
I don't think that's how it works.
It is how it works. In California, you can get a driver's license. You don't need anything. You can get benefits, especially in California, without having legal residency.
Yeah, I think that's a state-by-state basis.
Maybe, but it's not. That would be an example of learning about that issue and then talking about that issue. And I don't have enough information to talk. I'm just talking about generally what I've seen in the news, right? And I'll caveat that. But you know what I'm saying is I need a license to fly a plane. You need a license to drive a car. You need a license to go fish. You need this and that and this and that. Why is it so important? Why is it so unreasonable to expect you to have a photo ID, a state ID showing that you have legal residency in the country?
I'm not going to answer that.
Well, anyway, you see what I'm saying.
I do.
The point is there's some common sense there. I don't want to kick people out. I don't want to prevent people from coming in. What I would want is look at the immigration process and fix it. You know, we're a smart people. We put people on the moon and whatever. We can't fix fucking immigration?
Apparently not.
Yeah. Because you know why? Because it becomes a political thing.
Yeah.
And so the Republicans are not going to agree to this unless they get that. The Democrats are not going to agree to that unless they get this. And who suffers? We do, or people that want to get in this country. So I really feel good about that direction of the show because even about talking about the things that we're talking about made me realize that there's room for me to learn, and therefore there might be room for others to learn. And there's an opportunity for both of us to learn together.
Yeah.
I like that idea because in the end, isn't that what we do every day? We learn. We learn how to get the best deals on Amazon. We learn how to, lift weights to get the results that we want. We learn how to cook. We learn how to drive. We learn how to write. We learn how to read.
We learn shit every day.
Every day. So why can't we learn about the issues? Why does it have to be so egregiously confrontational?
Yep.
That's what I don't understand. And I really bristle at, I don't know how you feel about this, but I bristle at when someone says, "Oh, you're gay, so therefore you have to be this way, think this way, blah 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 blah." No, I don't. I voted for George Bush Sr. I voted for Bill Clinton the first time. Right? Because I thought George Bush Sr. wasn't a great president. Right? And still a nice man. Bill Clinton and George Bush Sr. were best of friends. Completely at odds ideologically, but somehow they found some common ground, right? Why can't we be more like that?
I get that.
Right. I voted for George Bush, the whatever, the first time. W, that's right, W. I voted for W the first time. I did not vote for him the second time. Yeah. As a matter of fact, I don't think, who came after him? Obama. Yeah, I think I didn't vote for Obama. I voted for Romney. Right? And I really wanted to hate Obama. I did. It had nothing to do with his race, but I just was like, this guy has no experience, and he has big ears.
Yeah, that's definitely a qualification I care about.
But the truth of the matter is, over the course of time, I grew to like him, and I thought, he's a decent human being, and an inspirational president and leader, right? Ineffective, I think, and he legislated by executive order, which is basically the next president could overturn them, so his legacy is fucked up. But I thought, this guy he's an eloquent speaker and a decent man, and, I just wish he was stronger. I just wish he was stronger on foreign policy, and I wish whatever, but he didn't have the Congress behind him, just like Trump doesn't either now. So that's the other problem too, is like they won't pass anything to give anything. You know what I mean? Everything has to be a dogfight. So, but then I couldn't vote for. I like John McCain, but I could not vote for Sarah Palin. I couldn't.
And what could she have really done, though?
Nothing. And I can't stand the way she speaks. So she was pretty to look at to all those rednecks and whatever, like, oh, man, she has big tits and whatever. But no. And John McCain had a goiter on his face that I couldn't stop staring at. I was like, no, this is not a match made in heaven. Oh, my God. So, and then when Clinton and Trump went together, I thought, okay, this woman has been through the ringer. Her husband cheated on her in a public scandal.
She's done things in politics.
She's done things in politics. She's really smart. But by God, she is a horrible public speaker. Mm-hmm. And I was like, he's going to rip her to shreds. And that's what he did. He ripped her to shreds. And don't get me started about that, but why she didn't get elected. But the truth of the matter is this made me realize that these elections are won and lost, and these political battles are won and lost by the emotional upheaval of who gets outraged the most. And I'm always fascinated by this video of this girl who, after Trump was elected and Clinton was defeated, did you see her? Where she's screaming at the top of her lungs, no, no, no.
I think a lot of people did that.
And because they could not believe it. And
I don't know why, but yeah.
Yes.
They just couldn't believe it.
They just took it for granted, I think. And like anything, when you take it for granted, it goes away.
Yeah.
And so it made me realize that instead of fighting, like even, do you listen to talk radio at all?
Not much anymore.
I do listen to some talk radio on both sides, right? Mm. It's amazing to me. They're not really educating anyone. No. They are just hammering you with emotional bombs, to get you emotionally excited. And so that's what made me start to think that maybe we do a show that is outside the norm of what people expect, but we really talk about the issues. And if somebody comes on and they want to get into an ideological fight, there's no way you're going to win that battle at all. So you just cut them off. Yeah. And I'm happy. I'm easy. I can do that with a button.
True.
But for those that want to come on and say, okay, well, I challenge your thinking to this. I challenge your thinking about that. Or have you thought about this? I do want to hear from those people. I do want to be challenged. See, that's the thing is I want to be challenged. I've learned some things on my own. But, a lot of talk radio hosts, you know what they do? They talk at you.
True.
Rachel, this is what's going on. This, that, blah, 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 blah. And they're not really interested in what you have to say. Nope. They're just talking at you, hoping that it's going to sink in. I actually want to have a conversation. I want to say, this is what I think based on this. What do you think? Exactly. Based on what? That appeals to me, because then I can say, no, you're wrong. You're totally wrong. And you can say, well, here are the facts. Okay, show me the facts. And then I read the facts, and then I will allude back to, if it's a MacBook Pro, it's a MacBook Pro.
Exactly.
Whether my opinion about it is different than yours is irrelevant. So if someone says, DJ, I'm picking, there's so many different ones, but impeachment is this and that. The impeachment inquiry is this and that. And here are the facts. And I look at it and I say, okay, those are the facts. I don't agree with those facts. Like, I don't agree with what those facts are telling me. But I can't disavow that they are the facts.
Exactly.
Do you see what I mean? Then it becomes a matter of having a discussion, and you and I, or the audience, having a discussion about the facts and trying to change our opinion. Uh-huh. And that is, to me, that's what it should be about.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that appeals to me kind of in a scary way.
We could see where it goes. Continue in this direction for at least a little bit, and then see what the response is, and see if we're really, tackling these things appropriately and everything, and if it's really working. Because, again, this is a fairly new show, folks. So.
Yeah, so we're finding our way back and forth. Mm-hmm. But on that note, we're going to take a little bit of a break, and we'll come back, and we're going to talk about the last segment of what we're going to do from here. All right? So don't go away. You're listening to the DJ Doran Show.
You're listening to the DJ Doran Show. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Call 312-235-2281 to speak to DJ.
All right. Well, that's Trace the Arrows. I don't know. I just wanted to try some different music for a change. But yeah, so that's Trace the Arrows. You're back listening to the DJ Doran Show, and we're in the last segment. I'm here with Rachael V, my co-host, and we're just talking about finding our identity for the show. And we've gone back and forth. We've done all sorts of shows on all different topics, trying all different formulas, and I think we've sort of come up with a formula that appeals to me and to you, right? Mm-hmm. So I think the show is going to be about news, politics, culture, news, politics, and culture.
And current events.
And current events. Well, yeah, and current events.
Similar.
Yeah, and so I think that's what we're going to, but we're going to talk about it in a different way. We're going to talk about it in a way that invokes the thought processes so that we hopefully incite people to think and to reevaluate what maybe are preconceived notions and become educated. And like I said, if we can change one heart and one mind one at a time, then I think we're doing a good job. And we'll have fun along the way. Now, just let me caveat this. Politics, current events, and news can be really heavy and depressing sometimes, right? And so I don't want to stay focused there, but I will tell you that we will cover that primarily, but every once in a while we're going to segue off into something that really is interesting, that interests me and hopefully interests the audience, like UFOs or sailing or flying or travel or any of that. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. And maybe at some future point down the road, we'll have a separate show about travel or this or that or whatever. But I do want to have the flexibility to talk about whatever I want, because there are times, truthfully, where I'm so sick to death of fucking politics and the fighting that I just don't want to talk about it on the show. I really don't. I want us to come in and have a good time and, let's say, talk about whatever, like your long, luxurious curly hair.
I do have that.
Yes, or me driving for Uber and how much fun that is. Somebody gave me a 3-star rating. I have like 2,500 rides, and they're all 5-star. And someone gave me a 3-star rating and said that my service was poor. And I'm always professional and whatever, but Uber doesn't tell you who that is. And I'm thinking to myself, this was just some old bitter.
They were just mad. They were just having a bad day.
Yeah. So it just goes to show you. I always say, have a wonderful evening or have a wonderful day. Thank you very much and whatever. But obviously, see, this is what I'm saying is I think I'm a likable and nice person, but not everybody does.
Exactly.
And that's their opinion, but that doesn't change the fact that I'm a likable and nice person. Mm-hmm. So anyway, you've been listening to the DJ Doran Show, and I think I'm so excited now that I can't believe we've actually talked an hour and 4 minutes about nothing.
Well, this is important. All right, we gotta really establish what we're doing with the show. Man.
It'll make it a lot easier for research too, because all you have to do is open up the news and pick whatever. But it's been a fun show.
Yeah.
And it's never ceases to amaze me. I didn't even. First of all, ladies and gentlemen, I completely forgot that we were doing a midweek recording because we're going to be gone for a conference at the end of the month. So we're going to do 2 shows a week to have some in the queue. And so I completely forgot. And then as I was driving here, I'm like, I don't really feel like doing this show because we just did one on Monday and I didn't feel like doing it and I didn't really have anything prepared. And, but it turned out to be one of the more fun shows. And I think it was interesting to talk about what we were talking about. And it makes me feel like I'm, as difficult as it is, because when you start something, you want to have this laser focused day one.
Yeah.
And I didn't.
Yeah, and it's rough, especially when you are still just trying to find it. You just wanted to get into it, I guess.
Yes, and at least we got started. Oh, by the way, before we go, I submitted our show to iHeartRadio yesterday.
Yeah. What up?
Yeah, so awesome. It takes 14 days. There's no guarantee that they'll accept the show, but at least it's submitted because you have to have 5 shows in sequence before they consider it.
Exactly.
So. That'll really up our audience, I believe. And we're starting to get a little bit of audience. I got a couple of followers now. We're not Howard Stern by no stretch of the imagination, and rightfully so, because the shows that we've done have all been basically a test of our hardware, a test of our process, and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And so we're making slow but sure progress.
We're getting there.
And now, as we sort of determine what the heart of the show is, it now makes it easy. Because it's like I'm sure when I first, for me, like when I first realized I was gay and I was like, okay, am I gay or is this just a phase or I'm going to try this and I'm going to date women and I'm going to do that and I'm going to go back and forth. But I remember the day when I finally said, you know what? I don't have to try anything. This is it. This is who I am.
Yeah.
Was like, I just felt relief is the only word. And I kind of feel that.
Exactly.
Like, I think this is where I need to be. Talking about nice, positive things all the time is great, and I have those things in my life. But by doing that, I'm eliminating the greater part of what I'm involved in, which is something, because I'm in gay media to begin with, that is worth talking about. Mm-hmm. And I think I can provide a different perspective and a different pathway to understanding more about issues. And I hope that people will learn. And I hope I will learn from people.
I do too.
All right. So listen, we're at the end of our show. It's an hour went by so fast. You can listen to the DJ Doran Show on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Podomatic, SoundCloud, and Spotify.
And soon iHeartRadio.
And soon, fingers crossed, iHeartRadio. And then, of course, on Spreaker, which is our podcasting hosting site. And you can pretty much find our show on almost all the major podcasting sites. So hopefully you'll take a listen and you'll start following us. And until then, have a wonderful evening. Keep up the fight. And we'll be back next week with a new show.
Alrighty.
And a new direction, so we're super excited. Have a wonderful evening. You've been listening to the DJ Doran Show. Good night, folks. Thanks for listening to another edition of the DJ Doran Show. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, SoundCloud, Podomatic, Stitcher, and all of the other major podcasting sites. Just search for the DJ Doran Show.